All right. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be on the show.
I thought we can kick off the conversation. Maybe you can share more about yourself so our audience will get to know you. I mean, who you are and what does Treehouse do?
You bet. So I am the founder and CEO of Treehouse. We're an online school that teaches adults how to code. And we take people from zero to job ready. And we specialize in folks who want a job in tech, or they want to switch into tech, but they don't want to go back to college, or they don't want to go to an expensive boot camp.
Mm-hmm. And how many people are you in the company, and how many are working remotely?
So we have around 80 full-time employees, and more than half work remotely. So I'm here in our Portland office, and there's about 30 of us here. And then we have a small team in Orlando, and then everyone else works from home. So we've been a distributed remote company since the very beginning. I actually started it when I lived in England 8 years ago. And so it's been a little while now. We have 80,000 enrolled students right now. So we're able to do, we're a pretty good big school now with a small team. So.
And why are you going like remotely? Why didn't you choose to have everyone in the office? Is there a specific reason you wanted to go over?
Well, it's interesting. It started because we had to in the beginning. So I was in the UK and I started hiring people, and they were in the US. So we were automatically remote. And so we started with that. And then over time, we realized that it allowed us to hire quicker because we could hire people no matter where they lived. So we didn't have to wait for them to be in this city or that city. So that's been a big advantage. But one of the big tough parts about it is that it's harder to create energy sometimes in the company because people feed off energy in person. And
you mean like high energy, like good energy?
Yeah. I mean, there's good energy and there's happy people and everything, but sometimes you don't feel it as much because, you don't see people physically as much. So that is a challenge that sometimes we have to overcome.
Mm-hmm. And are there any other things which you're doing to help connect all the workforce? Because it sounds like most of them are remote. Maybe there are some habits, routines, retreats, something you're doing that really helps connect it, like in terms of communication, culture.
You bet. So the one thing that we do is we fly everyone together to one in-person meetup per year. So the idea is we get everybody on a plane and we fly them. Last time we did was here in Portland. And that was really important to get that FaceTime and that reconnection time. So we do that. That's one thing. And then we do a couple other smaller things that seem to help. One is very simple. We use Slack at Treehouse, and we have a little room called Tea Time. And what you do is you go into Tea Time, and there's a bot. I think it's called Donut. And I don't know why it's called Donut. And then Donut pairs you with somebody else in the Tea Time channel, and then says, okay, paired you up with this random person. And then what we do is we have a Zoom call with that person. And the goal
randomly in the company?
Randomly, yeah. And
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's fun because the goal is not to talk about work. So for 30 minutes, you just sit back and you know that you're not trying to achieve something, and you get to know each other a little bit better. I just did one today, which was fun. And it does work. It's not some magic bullet that fixes it, but it has helped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds good. One of the things which I saw when I was doing some of my homework for the call, which was very prominent to me, is that you talked about how you and your company are working only 4 days a week, 32 hours per week. So I was curious if you can talk about this. Are you still doing it? Is this something you're applying for the whole company as well as the remote workforce?
Yes, we are not doing it anymore.
You're not doing it anymore.
No. So, and what's interesting, I basically did that for 10 years from 2006 to 2016.
Okay.
So I started my first company in 2004. And then I was able to convince my wonderful wife to join me in 2006. And then we just said, well, I wonder if we can just work a 4-day week. Like, who says you have to work 5 days a week? And so we did a 4-day work week. And then we hired our first employee, and we said, guess what? We work a 4-day work week, and they said, what? Like, is this a joke?
It's unusual.
Like, am I in a game show here? And we said, no, it's real, but we pay you a full salary. And we did it for a long time. I mean, 10 years of that experiment. And I think in the end, we decided to change it because in very competitive markets, I decided as the CEO, I didn't know if we could be successful in our mission by working way less than everybody else. There is a correlation between work and output.
It's one of the parameters of the formula. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think you can work smarter, but I think there is a minimum you can work and still compete. And I just felt like we were starting to not be able to compete because of that. And so as the CEO founder, I decided to change it, which was hard. The company went through a pretty tough, culture hit with that. And, but eventually we worked our way back to it. We did give people the freedom to say, hey, you can work 4 10s if you want, or 4 9s and then 1, 4. So we tried to give people flexibility with that. Now we just work a standard 5-day week when people join. So whenever new employees join, they work a normal 5-day week.
So how do you do the transition? I mean, I guess people working for many years, whether remotely or not, very used to working 4 times. How do you help make it easy transition?
Well, we tried to give them flexibility to say, you can, you still don't have to work Fridays, but you could work, 4 days of 10 hours each to make up, to get to that 40 hours. The trouble with that is it is hard to work a 10-hour day and be effective. But we try to give people some flexibility there and then, trust that it would work out.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And if you've done it for 10 years, I mean, you should have been very, very productive. And I'm guessing your team has to be very productive. How would you structure your day, and how would you tell your team to structure their day? Is there a specific structure which you found help them be more productive so you can produce more results for the day?
You bet. So the way I structure my day now is I wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day, and I work on Treehouse from 4:30 to about 5:30. And I just find I'm really effective in the morning and get a lot done. And then from 5:30 to 6:30, I work out. I just go down to my basement and I train. And then 6:30 to 8:30 is family time. So, I have breakfast and hang out with my kids and my wonderful wife. And then 8:30 to 6 p.m. is work. So I work really solid. I tend not to take a lunch. I just eat as I work to really maximize that work time so that I can leave right at 6 and then see my family. I rarely work in the evenings. Sometimes, after my kids go to bed and my wife goes to bed, sometimes I'll work, but because I wake up so early, I can't work too late. Otherwise I just start being ineffective.
Makes sense.
And so, I'm able to work sort of 55, 60 hours a week that way, but yet still support, still be there with my family and my friends and not lose my health. It's hard. I don't think that's sustainable for your whole life. I think it's sustainable for a period of your life, but at some point I'm going to have to slow down those hours a little bit. But for now, I think it's working. I don't expect all my employees to do that, by the way.
Do you ask them to do something like a specific structure, like, hey, do whatever works for you?
No, I mean, we now we say we expect folks to be working 40 hours a week. We expect new employees to be working Monday to Friday, but we are pretty free in people's time during that time. And we don't track anyone's, hours per se or anything like that. Really, it's more, hey, we trust that you're going to get the work done. I think you have to extend trust to folks, otherwise they feel micromanaged and not trusted. Because if you don't extend trust, so those are some of the lessons we've learned.
Mm-hmm. And how do you extend trust? Are there specific things, or is it just during the hiring process, the culture, something, especially remotely, because you don't really see anyone, I guess, like an office, if you're right now sitting in your office, you don't really see them every day. Is there something which helps with the trust in such
Yes.
environment?
Yeah, it's a good question because we actually just went through a bunch of training on this. So I would highly recommend anyone listening to this check out. It's called Speed of Trust, and it's a book.
It's a book.
It's a book, and there's also a training course you can go on. We went through the training course, but the book is very, very helpful, and it basically explains that trust means a lot of things to different people. So what is trust? And so it goes through, okay, what is it? And so it starts off, they use a tree analogy. So
Okay.
there's roots, and roots is integrity. So someone has to have integrity for you to be able to trust them. You have to believe that as a person, they are trustworthy. You know, they're not going to lie to you, or they're gonna, you know, they're gonna do what they say. There has to be that foundation. That's very basic, right? So you have to have integrity. And then the trunk is the intention. So you have to understand their intention. Like, why are they doing what they're doing? What's the motive that they're doing it? If you don't understand someone's intentions, it's very hard to trust them. Like, you know, is my manager asking me to do this thing because they're trying to make themselves look better? You know, are they trying to do it to make the company more money? Are they trying to make me more money? Like, what is the reason they're doing this? So you have to explain your intentions to people. They don't know them. So that's the trunk of the tree.
Interesting.
And then the branches of the tree are capability. So the person has to be capable of delivering results, you know, so they have to have the
skills.
skill,
Yes.
right? So you can't trust someone's going to, you know, be a developer if they haven't learned how to code. They don't have the capability, right? So they have to have the capability. And then the final thing is the leaves, which is the results. In the end, you have to deliver results to be trusted. So once again, the bottom is integrity. Someone has to have integrity. Then the trunk is intention. What is their intention? The branches are capability, and the leaves are the results. And that is trust. Now, how you earn trust is a whole big thing. And it's interesting. It turns out there's behaviors that help build trust. And you can actually ask someone, out of, you know, these list of behaviors, which ones do you need from me to start building trust? And you go through those things, and you start doing those things. And then that builds trust. So we went through that training. It was very helpful at Treehouse.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I will make sure to include this book in show notes, and I'll go and read myself. I've never heard of this book.
It's very good. I've read a lot of books, and it's one of the best.
Cool. So since you're hiring so many people remotely, I know that remote work has lots of frictions. There are lots of benefits as well, which I'm enjoying and quote unquote suffering from. Are there any unsolved frictions which you have in your current remote environment, something you think which is yet out there and should be solved by a software product or something?
There's a lot. I would say, you know, we have tried to figure out how to be social beings without that physical presence, and it hasn't really been solved. You know, just the very small behaviors as humans that we exhibit, you know, laughing, you know, the way we walk, you know, the way we talk, all these things are picked up in person and
human interactions.
Yeah. And it's just hard not to have that. And it's harder to build out trust. So I think, you know, I could imagine VR being helpful someday.
That's what's came to my head when you said it for some reason.
So, I mean, you could do VR, but again, it's not quite the same. So it's tough. I still think you can be very effective, but for some reason, that connective tissue is harder to build over video calls.
I agree. The human interaction is definitely missing in the remote environment, and yeah, I'm curious to know how it can be solved. I know video is one of those option. Please.
Do you think that we're moving to a world where most companies support remote work or not?
I personally think that yes, I know I'm working remotely. I mean, your company, I'm talking the product we're building. I personally think that since the easier it is to be on the internet is faster, there are more tools to do it. So I personally really think it's gonna quote unquote explode. I don't think all companies will go. Like that's just my personal prediction. Who knows what the hell will happen? But that's my thoughts. Yeah, I just kind of in the remote world, and I do see more companies. I do see people doing it more and more, especially more than in the past.
Yep, agreed.
So you run a relatively big company. I wanted to ask, do you have any advice you would give to all SaaS founders who are listening to the show and maybe want to grow their business as well?
Yes. I think it seems like there are a couple types of founders. And one type is someone who thinks themselves as a product founder. They're passionate about solving a problem. They understand how to build a piece of software or a product to solve that problem, but they don't see themselves as a salesperson. Someone who is good at selling or good at marketing. And then you have a sales-based, marketing-based founder who really understands how to sell something and how to get people to buy something, but doesn't feel as comfortable with the product, the actual user experience or the user interface or the technology. And I think, those are some of the most common types. It seems to break down into those two types. There's obviously nuances and mixes, but I consider myself a product founder for a long time. I really understand product. I get it. I can imagine the user interface. I know how it should work. I understand the problem we're trying to solve. I know how to make it delightful. It's just easy for me. But I didn't think I could sell. I had some bad experiences selling when I was younger. I tried to sell stuff. I got yelled at, got rejected. And I thought, I hate that. And I guess, other people will be able to do that for us someday and really figure out how to do this. They're salespeople, Mm. And so for a chunk of my career at Treehouse, I tried to almost like outsource that function to other people in the company. And I finally had to admit, there's a part of this that as the founder, I have to solve. I have to figure out how to explain our product, how to sell our product. I have to figure out how to package it and price it. No one else can do that in the beginning. Mm-hmm. You may want someone else to do it, but the reality is if you don't do it, you're not building the foundation for success for your company. And so I've had to go back and build that foundation, and it should have been built a long time ago. And so I decided to do that. But actually what I learned is because I believe in our product, it's actually easy for me to sell. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean easy that people buy it all the time. I mean easy in the sense I can deal with rejection because I believe in what I'm selling. If you mm-hmm. reject me, that's frustrating and sad, but it's just one more no that gets me closer to a yes, and I'm not going to stop. So I would mm-hmm. encourage people listening that are thinking about starting or at the beginning of their journey to be especially careful about thinking that someday you're going to hire, a VP of sales or, a head of sales or somebody to sort out your revenue problem or to sell mm-hmm. your product, because you'll probably have to go through the same thing I did and relearn those lessons, and it will set you back. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I know software is also getting more commoditized because it's easier and easier to build. So what you're telling really connects to it, but you need to be able to sell it. And I guess you, the CEO and the founder, are responsible for creating the revenue and the sales and really pushing the needle and making sure this actually happens in your company.
Yep. And it's generally a lie that you just build a great product and people come. You get lucky sometimes in your Facebook or your,
That's true. It's percentage number. It's whatever, anything it is, like that's case. It's not 100% like build something. And
yeah, most people that doesn't happen to. Most people, you have to work for 10 years really, really hard to get to success. So don't think that's going to happen automatically, but also don't think you're failing if you're not seeing hockey stick growth. I mean, that it's more normal to have a company that grows, slowly, and that's okay.
That's okay as well. Absolutely. Ryan, I know you have another meeting which you need to jump on soon. You're a busy man and you have a big company to run. I thought just to quickly wrap it up, you can tell more people, number one, where they can find you. If they're interested in Treehouse and learning to code, where could they go? Where would you want to send people?
You bet. So just Google Treehouse. We're thankfully the number one. There's a whole number 2, 3, 4, 5 probably. But so just Google Treehouse. You'll find us. We're also on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. Just again, Google Treehouse or Team Treehouse. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Ryan Carson, one word. And I would love to chat to y'all.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure chatting to you. And thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. Take care.
All right. Take care.